Hi ladies, we are now ready to start on our second page in our album. Now I have my design paper cut out, and remember our page is 8 by 10, so I cut it a 1/16 of an inch below 8 and a 1/16 of an inch below 10, so we'll have our black reveal around the edges. Now I have some black cardstock that I have cut 7.5 inches wide by 10 inches tall. Then I'm going to score that on the 7.5 inch side. We're going to score down 1 inch. We're going to score down a 1/2 inch. So just to go again, the 7.5 inch side, we're going to score at 1/2 of an inch. And this is going to be our side flap. And then we have a pocket to put on here. So for our pocket, I'm going to take another black cardstock, and I used a punch on this one, which I failed to show y'all in the beginning. I have it's the Paper Studio. It's just some flowers, but whatever punch that you have in your stash, just go ahead and use that. Now this page we are going to cut at 5.5 inches. And now my punch that I'm using is 1 inch wide. So that's why I based this paper off of making a 5-inch cut. A 5.5 inch cut by 10. And I'm going to go ahead and cut down using my paper punch on one edge. One more time. Alright. Now in your paper, your design paper, after making these cuts, you should have a 4-inch section that'll fit right in there. Well, I said that was... Yeah, it's not quite 1 inch, so I do have a little bit of an overhang. I'm going to go ahead and glue this down, then I'm going to trim this bottom part because it's a little bit wider than I thought it would be. So just use whatever punch that you have in your stash. Put down your 4-inch page all the way up to your border, and then just cut off your excess. So I'm just going to cut off a 1/16 of an inch on the black cardstock down from where my design paper is. There we go. Okay, then I'm going to take my flap that we just made, and this one is going to go down, but first let's put our design paper on here. And it looks like I used this very last page here. It has the little circles on the front. Paper punch out of the way. There we go. So I'm just going to take and cut off this edge here. Alright. And we know, see about how much we need. So if we just put this in place, we just need enough to go underneath that pocket. So I'm going to cut mine 3.5 inches wide, and then again 10 inches minus 1/16. So 3.5 inches wide. And then we're going to go down to 10 inches and scoot it minus 1/16 of an inch. Alright, let's double check and make sure it fits. And it fits perfect, so I'm going to glue that one down in place. Okay, and then now we're ready to put down our pocket, and I'm going to use my score tape, and we want to put it around the 3 sides. Okay, get my excuse me, bone folder. And tear off the tape backing. And take our flap and make sure your fold is behind there and out of the way. And I'm just going to put it all the way down to the edge of my paper and line it up. Can't quite see. I'm going to turn it this way so I can see it a little bit better. Alright, there we go. Okay, so we have our first flap with the pocket, and we're going to set that side aside for now, and we're going to work on the next flap that goes over the top of it. Okay, on that one we're going to take a black cardstock. See if I have any scraps. Yeah. We're going to cut it at 4 inches wide. by 10 inches long. Then we're going to take our scoreboard, and this flap is going to be going over the second flap, so we're going to score this one at, let's see, 1/2 of an inch, and we're on the 4-inch side, so we're going to score it 1/2 of an inch, and then the next little line 5/8 of an inch. 1/2 of an inch, 5/8 of an inch. And then we're going to fold that. Fold both of the score lines. And what that does is, let me get my second one done. There we go. What that does is it gives us like a little bit of a U, and it makes a gap in there so it can fold over our first flap without any problem. Okay, now on this one we have again the flowered paper. Let's see, so right now we're about 3 1/4 inch. So let me see if I have any already in my, nope. We're gonna have to cut another one. I don't see any scraps around. Ah, found one. I think that'll work just perfectly. So mine completed measured at 3 1/4 by 10. So for the length, I'm going to do 10 inches minus 1/16. And then the width, 4 1/4 minus 1/16 of an inch. And that should give you your reveal of a 1/16 of an inch all the way around. Yeah. So let's go ahead and glue this one down into place. Now this one, on the flap side, we have a little pocket, and I use a Spellbinders die. I use Spellbinders Cascading Grace Pocket, which I apologize, I failed to mention that in the beginning of my the video. And I just used the top section, so these two pieces here. So I'm going to get me some black cardstock. We're going to make sure that it's 10 inches in length. Just pull from my scrap if I have. Oh, this one looks a little bit too, there we go. And what I did is I left 1 inch across the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and mark a line there, because we have to cut this out twice. So I'm going to put a little mark at 1 inch. And then also on the other side at 1 inch. And I'm going to draw a line. I guess I could have used my Martha Stewart ruler. That would have been a lot easier, huh? There we go. Now I have this die cut twice. So we're going to figure out exactly where we're going to put it. And how far apart we want it. So using the center of the die cut, I have it at 2.5 inches from this side here. So 2.5 inches, the very center of this die cut, and I'm going to use some washi tape to hold that down. And then I'm just going to run that through my die cutting machine real quick. And I'm going to leave the camera rolling, so y'all go and do yours also. Okay. Pull these off. We're going to reuse them here in just a minute. Come on up. There we go. And we're going to reuse this, so I'm just going to clean it real quick. And then we're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. Two and a half inches. I'll just make a little mark right there. And then we're going to center our die cut on that 2.5 inches. And try to keep it straight on that line that we made. And I'm going to run this through my die cutting machine. Whoops. That didn't work. Try that tape again. There we go. And I'll be right back. Alright. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and get my cutting mat. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut from the edge of the die cut this way in the center. Whoa, that one didn't work out, did it? Let me see if I can get that back on there in the exact same place. Good luck to me. I didn't even... Let me try that again. I'm not sure what happened. The fun part is trying to get it exactly lined up again. I'm going to take the chance, or else I'm just going to have to start all over again. Wait, that's the wrong one. It's this one. Keep your fingers crossed. I'm going to go ahead and run that through one more time. I think it might have actually worked. Let's see. Yay! Honestly, I'm a little shocked. Alright, let me go ahead and cut out the excess top part using my X-Acto knife, and we'll just put a ruler, get it as straight as I can. There we go. Well, my middle part didn't come out so good. Let me try that one again. That's about as good as it's going to get. Then I'm going to take my eraser and erase the leftover pencil mark. Alright, let's get all this out of the way. Okay, so now we have our little flap back. And this one is going to go down just like that. I still didn't erase that very well. Let me try. And on this one, I just put some ribbon down, but you could put ribbon, you can put paper. I put some ribbon and then some bling. If I can find that ribbon real quick. Nope, that wasn't it either. Let's see. Alright, I used this one. So let's take our piece, flip it over, and we're going to add score tape to the back, 3 sides. And since this is such a small piece, I'm going to reinforce it with some wet glue. Now make sure that when you're putting it down, your flap side is to your left and it's tucked behind and out of the way. And we're just going to bring it all the way to the edge of our paper. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and decorate this with my ribbon, using my Fabri-Tac glue. Let's see how I want to do this. You can use Fabri-Tac glue or you can use hot glue. I just haven't plugged mine in yet, so I guess it'd help if I did the correct side of the ribbon. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and plug in my glue gun. This stuff is sticky. And then as soon as my hot glue gun heats up, we'll put down our bling on a roll across the bottom edge. Alright, now we have our bottom page and both of our fold outs. Let's see here. On the inside of this fold out, let me check my video real quick. Yeah, we took again this paper here and cut it down. So we're going to cut that down, what was it, 4, 3 1/4? Yeah. So we're going to go to the 10 mark and go down 1/16 and cut. And then we're going to go to our 3 1/4, go down 1/16 and cut. so that's going to go for our inside. And then I used one of the cut-aparts. I used Choose Kindness, and we're going to go ahead and back that on some black cardstock. See if I can find a little scrap that'll fit. I believe this one will. Yes. So let me double check our measurement. This one. Well, I did something wrong. That thing was 3 1/4. I did 3. Okay, let me try that again. 3 1/4 minus 1/16. It is the right measurement. I just put mine on 3 1/2 by mistake. Okay, let's go ahead and glue that down. Actually, let me see. I can't remember if I used magnets. Yeah, we should. Let me go ahead and do that. Let's put a little magnet on the back of here. And I'm going to put it at the top part, because we're going to put this on the inside, and that would just be way too thick. So put some glue down, tape, vacuum. See if it'll go through all this cardstock. Yes. Alright, so let's put some glue down here. Place our magnet. Put some tape. There we go. Now let's go ahead and glue down our design paper. I can make it like this. Then we're going to take our cut apart, cut it down on a piece of scrap cardstock. And we just want to have that 1/16 of an inch around all the edges. So I'm going to take and cut it down. Here we go. And on this one, since we are going to take stuff where we could leave it to where we can tuck in behind it, I'm only going to put score tape on 3 sides. So be mindful of which side that you're putting your tape. We want to put the right side and the bottom. So when I flip it over, it actually ends up being the bottom and the left side. And I hope that made sense. Okay, let's take off our score tape. And we don't want to get it up here where our magnet is, and we want to get it fairly centered. And then on mine I had put some of my feathers at the bottom. See if I left enough room. cut this tip off. It's a little bit too long. Actually, this one. See if we can get both of them in like the previous album. I think I'm going to do just one instead. Let's see if I make it smaller. Actually, I'm gonna cut this bottom. Well, come here. Yeah, we're gonna do it like that. Do it like that. There we go. So we have our little tuck spot. Alright, now I just need to figure out which paper we used on the back flap. Let me go through my video real quick. Okay, on the back flap we have those two flip-ups. So we used, let's see if this one fits. No! Alright. So we're going to cut another page from the back of the album. And I don't believe I have enough scrap. We used this. Yeah, let's go ahead and pull another one of those out. There we go. Okay, set that aside. Remind myself how big this is. 7 by 10. We're going to get our cutter out. Cut this little tab part off. Alright, we're going to go to the 7. Go down 1/16 of an inch and cut. Go to the 10, down 1/16 of an inch and cut. Double check. And that looks good. Alright. I'm going to do 2 4x6 flaps. Yes. So we're going to get our rose pages. And we're going to cut it 4-inch. One more at 4-inch. Actually, it's 12 inches paper. Let's just cut it in half. There we go. And we'll have 2 pieces 4x6. Yes. Then we need to get our black cardstock. See if I have any scraps that'll work. I always try to keep my scraps around just for this reason. So I'm going to cut down the, I got too many pieces. I'm going to cut the width. We know our cardstock is 6 inches. So we're going to go to our 6 inches and we're going to add 1/16 of an inch. So 6 and 1/16. Twice. 6 and 1/16. And go ahead and check yours before we get any further that your width is good. Mine is. And I'm going to go ahead and glue these two down. And then we'll make our score line. And my glue dried up. Glue all over me. Alright, we have those two down, so we're going to take our scoreboard. Now our design paper was 4 inches wide, so we're going to go down 4 1/8 and score. So depending on how long your paper was would be how much tab you have left over here. 4 1/8. Let's see, I think my tab's about 1 inch. Yeah. But if your tab is any longer, you can go ahead, or too long, you can go ahead and cut it down. I'm going to line up my score line at my 1/2 inch. Cut it. That way I only have a 1/2 inch flap. And then again, line my score line up to the 1/2 inch. Then I have a little 1/2 inch tab. And we're going to cut our design paper to slide these in just like we did last time. So let's figure out the placement. First I'm going to taper the edge here on both of them. Alright. Let's figure out, we want to center it from left to right. I think I'm going to do all those things. Sorry. I made a line down here because I know when I was editing my last video, I got out of shot a lot, so I'm trying to be mindful of it. Let's see if we go 1 inch. Might be too much. Okay, so we're going to do 0.75 from the bottom and 0.75 from the top. So let's start. Alright, so let's make our first mark. We're going to go 0.75 from the top. And I'm just going to make a little mark. And then on this side also, 0.75 from the top. Then we're going to take our flip, line it up with that 0.75 mark, and then center it from each side here. Then go ahead and trace out, make a line there with our pencil the same length as our flap. And I make it pretty dark there to cover up on that dark cardstock. Same on this side, 0.75. Hold on, time out. We're going to do this one a little bit different. On the bottom one, we're going to line up the bottom of our flap on that 0.75 and center it from left and right. And then draw our line at the top here. I think we'll be good with both of those measurements. Yes. Alright, so take your cutting pad and your blade, and we're going to cut these two there we go. Alright, let's make sure that it fits. That one does fit. Move on to the next one. Oh, pooey. Make sure that one fits. A little bit more. There we go. Now I'm going to take my pencil and erase the mark that we made. And we're going to go ahead and glue those down in place. We're going to put glue on our inside of our tab. Glue stopped up again. I'm going to slide that in. We'll put in our second one. Alright, then we're going to take two magnets, get this out of the way. We're going to place one on the inside, put some glue down, put a piece of tape over the top of it. Take a magnet, put it on top of there, put some glue, and then put this magnet where that glue spot, and then add some tape. I did it again. I'm sorry, ladies. They go on the outside. Let's go ahead and put this one here then. Can't seem to get my magnets correct on this one. I'm so worried that I'm going to forget them. I'm overthinking it. Tape them down real quick. Alright, then we're going to take our pocket flap and flip it over, and we're going to glue this down here. Remove the tape for all our little magnets we have in here. But before I glue that down, I'm going to make sure and run some tape on these edges where we cut the paper, just to make sure that's nice and solid so it doesn't tear while the album's being opened and closed. Just put it right on the edge of where we made those cuts. And we're going to put lots of glue also. Make sure you get a lot of glue on this top part So that stays down also for both of them. Okay. And we're just going to put that right down in place. Let's see what paper I used on this inside part. I forgot to check. Alright, we used more of the roses. So I have a couple of scraps here. Let's see if these, nope, they're not quite wide enough. Alright, so set that aside for a second and bring out your cutting board. Alright, so we're 4 inches wide. Minus. Yeah, 4 inches wide. And then straight down 6 inches. We're going to take off our backing for our tape. Let me double check I got this correct. Yes, and we're going to glue that down. And then our next one, take off the backing for the tape and glue it down. There we go. Okay, now we take what we started with, our 8 by 10 page, and get both of our flaps out. And we're going to start assembling. We're going to start with the flap that we just finished. And on this one I'm going to take some score tape and put it on our little tab. As close to that score line as possible, but not going over. And I'm also going to use some glue just to help reinforce it. Alright, we're going to take our base page and we're going to put it all the way up till that fold score line, but don't go over the score line. For some reason mine's coming out a little bit long, so I'm going to trim these edges here. I'm just just taper them. Try that again. Come here. There we go. The thing was giving me trouble. And we have these magnets that are on here, so if you flip it over, let's see if they'll pull through. There we go. See if it'll find the other one. There we are. So you'll see what I did? We already have the magnets that we put in to put these two down. So I'm closing it and I'm just trying to find those magnets. And then I'm going to take some glue and then put some tape on them. And that'll keep that top flap down. Alright, now for our next flap, I'm going to go ahead and taper it also on the ends. Taper it. Now, if you remember, this is the one that we scored twice, so we can get that little U. Not sure if that'll show up. Yeah, there it is. You can sort of see it there. So we did the double score, and what we want to do, if I taper it, I just want to taper it to the outside score. Alright, so we're going to take our page, and again, we have two scores here. And I want to put adhesive on the outer tab going all the way to that first score. Do not go over that first score to the second. Just from the back flap all the way to that first score. Otherwise your page will not open and close correctly. See if I can show it with the tape on it. Does that help any at all? Can you see how much room we have from the design paper to here, where our double score is? Alright. I'm going to reinforce that with some glue. Now, when we position, we're putting it on this back flap here, and only go up to that first score. And that way, with this extra expansion that we made, it makes room for it to go over the bulkiness of this. And there we are. We have our first flap, our pocket, our second flap, and then our fold out here. Now mine, I put some bling on a roll, so I'm going to add that. Just put it right on the edge of our lace. I'm going to cut this out so I don't have to fight with that roll. And I'll finish putting this together, and then we can add it into our album. One too many here. There we go. Okay, so grab your album, flip over to your second page. We're going to add some score tape around the edges. Okay, make sure those are nice and secure. And then we take our backing off all the edges and also the backing that we had on our little magnets. And lots of glue. Well, once we take the top off. Okay, and since this backing is already on the page we completed, it's a little bit easier to see. So we're going to flip it over and eyeball it. Take a look at where you're at, top to bottom, left to right. We want a good black border around all the sides. I can't see my top though. Let's see. me try opening this, maybe that'll help. There we are. Make sure it's adhered down. Alright. And there we have our pocket and our two flaps. Now the next page is really easy. It's again using the flower. So I'm going to take my paper and get our flowered. Ooh. We're down to our last page of the flowers. And cut this little tab off the end. Alright, and we are going to go 8 inches and then minus 1/16 of an inch. Ten inches minus 1/16 of an inch. Alright, and on this page, I'm going to go ahead and glue it down because the only thing that I added with this one was my little die cuts of the feathers. So let me get that white cardstock so I can see where exactly I'm putting it. We're going to put it behind our page so I can see all the borders. And this one I'm just going to glue down. Okay, make sure we have our reveal around our edges. I'll do this without getting my head in the... There we go. Now if you like a bigger reveal than I have, more than a 1/16 inch, you're more than welcome, which I guess I could have told you that before we got to the second page, but you're more than welcome to make a larger reveal. But of course I always recommend watching a video before you, watching the video completely before you start your project, because I have done that, not watched it completely, and sometimes it just didn't quite work out if, you know, the person makes an error, which, yeah, I've done that. Alright, and our little feathers, I'm going to put it on and I'm just going to glue down one side of it so they can tuck pictures up underneath it, or photo mats. We'll put it on that corner. And then one down in this corner. And as you can see, I left this unglued so you could tuck stuff underneath there. Well, get under there. And then also here, you can tuck under there. Alright, now we are ready. 1, 2, 3, we're ready for page 4.